September is when magic starts looking like itself again. The evenings are drawing in, the leaves are beginning to turn, and it's finally acceptable to fill the house with candles without looking like you're trying to summon something. I do love the summer, but autumn is when I really come alive. This is when the nights start getting longer than the days, and the fairy lights get switched back on at Kippy Towers. I do cosy in this house. And there's a lot going on this September. We've got Mabon and the autumn equinox, the harvest moon, Virgo handing the celestial clipboard over to Libra, and a Celtic tree calendar that's all about wine. So you can count me in for starters. We're also going to meet a magical boar that's carrying an entire grooming kit. Discover why the tarot has appointed a solitary old man and a terrifying woman with a sword to supervise the harvest. And try a special 4-card harvest moon spread. Then we'll go through this month's best opportunities for magic, including crystal work, shadow work, the Golden Dawn spiritual password reset, and one particularly good day for confronting any technology that appears to be possessed by the devil himself. First up, we've got Mabon, which is the pagan celebration of the autumn equinox and the second of the 3 harvest festivals between Lunacy and Samhain, which is the famous one. So Mabon is a time of gratitude and balance. Traditionally, harvest celebrations at this time were about gathering what had grown and preparing for winter. In modern times, that can be recognising what we've achieved and deciding what we want to carry into the darker months ahead. Pagan practices vary, but people might decorate an altar with autumn leaves, grain and seasonal fruit. Apples are particularly popular because if you cut one horizontally, the seeds form a 5-pointed star at the centre. It's basically a pentagram supplied by the produce aisle. In the Wiccan tradition, these 8 festivals are known as Sabbats, and they make up the Wheel of the Year, which is a cycle of seasonal festivals that mark the solstices, the equinoxes and all the bits in between. It's a fairly modern idea, but it comes from lots of different folk traditions and kind of brings them all together. Now the name Mabon actually comes from Welsh mythology and a baby called Mabon ap Modron. The story goes that he was stolen from his mother when he was just 3 nights old and hidden away somewhere nobody could find him. So King Arthur's men got together and launched a missing person investigation by questioning a blackbird, a stag, an owl, an eagle and a giant elderly salmon. Now you would think that those conversations might be a little one-sided, but apparently the salmon came good and remembered that he'd heard someone moaning in a prison. That place where nobody can find him turned out to be Gloucester, which is about an hour away from here, but to be fair it does have quite a confusing ring road system. So they all jumped on his back and headed up the M5, presumably stopping at Gloucester Services for a coffee and a sausage roll on the way. They do a good sausage roll at Gloucester Services. When they got there, they rescued him and sent him off to hunt a magical boar called Twerchtruith. Anyway, this boar had a comb, a razor and a pair of scissors hidden between his ears. Because of course he did. Why did they need these? So a giant could have a shave before he went to his daughter's wedding. Now I thought the Greek myths were out there, but this shit's next level. In any case, now that we've gone through that little bit of insanity, you'll be pleased to know that the Mabon legend has got absolutely nothing to do with the autumn equinox, but the name stuck, so here we are. Another pagan festival that occurs in September is the Celtic tree month of the vine. This comes from a calendar devised by the British poet Robert Graves, who used the letters and plant associations of the old Irish OGHAM alphabet to divide the year into 13 tree months. Most of September belongs to the vine, which isn't technically a tree, but it does produce wine, so I'm willing to overlook it. And as a symbol for September, the vine is pretty much perfect. This is the season when cultivated fruit becomes a rather splendid Shiraz, when careful work, patience and pruning finally produce a product that belongs to celebration, ritual, and occasionally waking up on a park bench wondering what happened to your shoes. Older harvest customs also treated the final sheaf as though the spirit of the crop had retreated inside it. It might be fashioned into a corn figure called the maiden, the old woman, or the Cailleach, and kept through winter. We'll come back to the Cailleach properly in October, when she stops hiding in the barley and starts taking control of the weather. So all this asks us to recognise what has grown, give thanks for what has sustained us, and decide what's worth carrying forward. Unfortunately, the tarot has appointed 2 people to help with that. A solitary old man carrying a lantern and a woman with a sword who looks like she's about to judge him. The Hermit is the tarot card associated with Virgo, which covers most of September. He's withdrawn from the noise and carries a lantern into the darkness, making him perfect for the longer nights, when leaving the house requires a coat and a very good reason. He asks us to examine what we've created and decide what still contains light. Some habits and projects have served their purpose, while some drawers contain 14 obsolete charging cables that we're saving for the collapse of civilization. The point isn't to hide from life, but to decide what deserves carrying into the next season. Then at the autumn equinox, the sun moves into Libra and the tarot hands the harvest over to Justice. This correspondence is staring us in the face. Justice has the scales, and the equinox is the point when light and darkness reach their symbolic balance. She's got scales in one hand and a sword in the other, which gives us the complete process. Weigh it honestly, then cut away what doesn't belong. Justice doesn't care that you might use it one day, that it has sentimental value, or that you've been paying $8.99 a month for it since 2021 and can't remember the password to cancel it. Together, the two cards give us the work of September. The Hermit examines the harvest, Justice weighs it. And that brings us to this month's tarot spread. So for September, I've put together a 4-card Harvest Moon spread. We're going to lay 4 cards in a diamond, beginning at the bottom and working our way upwards. The first card goes at the bottom and represents the seed. This is what you've been cultivating. It could be something that you've deliberately invested time and energy into. Maybe you've cheered up a friend by writing "You've got this" on a potato, and now you're developing an online business selling personalised motivational vegetables. The second card is the harvest, what is now ready to be recognised or claimed. Maybe the motivational potatoes have gone viral, orders are pouring in, and you've become the leading supplier of tuber-based encouragement. The third card is the winnowing, what needs to be separated or released. Winnowing removes the chaff from the grain, so this card is about what can be cut away so your time and energy can go towards what's actually working. Maybe the potatoes are flying out, but the motivational cabbages cost a fortune to post, and nobody wants a pep talk from a Swede. And the final card at the top is the storehouse. What should I preserve and carry forward? Maybe it's the loyal customers, the reliable supplier, and the discovery that a correctly worded root vegetable can change somebody's life. This card shows what will continue to sustain you after everything unnecessary has been cleared away. In this case, that could be 400 King Edwards in the spare room, all telling you to believe in yourself. So the spread moves from what you planted through to what you produced, to what you can release and what is genuinely worth keeping. Obviously this isn't exclusive to Tony Robbins in vegetable form. The same spread can be applied to a relationship, a new habit, or any part of your life where something has been growing. You can perform it at any point during the month, but the harvest moon on the 26th would be a particularly appropriate time. Here's a selection of important dates that are coming up in this month's occult calendar. Just a quick note to let you know that these are UK dates and times, so you might need to adjust them depending on where you are in the world. They don't have different time zones in space, stuff just happens when it happens. September begins with Mars squaring Saturn, so that's action running directly into restriction. Not an ideal day for forcing results, picking fights, or trying to assemble flat pack furniture. Then we've got the last quarter of the moon on the 4th, which supports clearing, completion and removing anything that doesn't need to follow us into the next lunar cycle. You know, like the shopping bag that contains all the other shopping bags that you're definitely going to need one day. We've got a big changeover happening a week later. The 10th is a busy day. Venus moves into Scorpio, Mercury enters Libra, and Uranus begins its retrograde in Gemini. Venus moving into Scorpio can bring buried questions about relationships, trust and shared money to the surface. Who do I feel safe with? What am I willing to share? And where's that 86 quid from the joint account gone? Meanwhile, Uranus, beginning its retrograde in Gemini, invites us to reconsider our relationship with technology and communication. So that might mean muting the group chat, or finally giving up on the stupid printer that's now possessed by all the demons of the Goetia. Also on the 10th, Mercury moves into Libra, making this a useful time for workings involving communication, negotiations and clearing up misunderstandings. Otter Spirit have very kindly sent me this rather gorgeous lapis lazuli obelisk, and lapis is often used in crystal magic for truth, wisdom and honest expression. This could be something you need to communicate clearly, or something you need to understand more honestly. So for a simple working on this date, I might pick up the crystal when I first wake up in the morning and take 3 deep breaths. Then I'd spend a few minutes considering what actually needs to be said. This lets me start the day with a clear intention, rather than rehearsing the devastating argument I'm planning to win while I'm having a shower. Anyway, this is one of many obelisks available at Otter Spirit that you can use for a whole range of intentions and crystal work. Links and discount codes in the description. Then on the 11th we've got a new moon in Virgo, and this brings a much more practical kind of fresh start. It's useful for workings around routines, health, and fixing the little systems that keep life running, whether that means beginning a new daily practice or finally labelling the freezer so you can stop defrosting anonymous little bags of brown matter. Then we've got the autumn equinox. This year that happens in the UK at about 1 o'clock in the morning on the 23rd of September. So you can either get up and greet it or celebrate the precise moment of astronomical balance by being unconscious. This is also when the sun moves into Libra, so the whole day carries themes of balance, adjustment and restoring harmony. It's a good time for workings around reconciliation and bringing neglected parts of your life back into the light. Exercise in my case. That annual gym membership has seen about as much use as a hotel trouser press. The Golden Dawn also marked each equinox with a formal ceremony in which the old passwords were abolished and the offices of the temple were renewed. Essentially, it was a ceremony of changing the guard and a spiritual system reset, which makes the equinox an excellent time to review your own practice, clear the altar and decide what you're carrying into the next part of the year. Then on the 26th we've got the harvest moon in Aries. The harvest moon is the full moon closest to the autumn equinox, traditionally named because the bright evening light gave farmers more time to dig up the carrots. Magically, this one combines the culmination of the full moon with the confidence and initiative of Aries, making it a good time to recognise what you've achieved, perform the harvest moon tarot spread and finally act on something that you've been thinking about since February. Mars enters Leo on the 28th, bringing a more confident, expressive and potentially theatrical approach to getting things done. The 29th is Michaelmas, the feast of Saint Michael and all angels, making it appropriate for protection or archangelic work. Then on the 30th, Mercury moves into Scorpio, which makes communication more psychologically intense. This can be a good time for divination and shadow work, but do bear in mind that Mercury is going to retrograde in Scorpio during October, so whatever emerges now might be sticking around for a while. Finally, and also on the 30th, the Celtic tree calendar moves from the vine into the ivy, so apparently nature will be finished with the wine and is about to start putting up the Christmas decorations. Give it another fortnight and the shops will be full of illuminated reindeer.
Kirby's Quest, Kirby's Quest. Yay!
And that's September. Let me know what you're looking forward to this month and whether there's any dates or traditions that you'll be observing. This is the first episode of Occult Outlook, so let me know if there's anything you'd like me to include in October's video. Just before we finish, I'd like to say a massive thank you to all the members whose names are scrolling up the screen right now. These are the wonderful people whose support gives me the time and resources to keep researching, writing and making increasingly absurd jokes about occultists and potatoes. I'm enormously grateful to every one of you. Take care, enjoy the beginning of autumn and I'll see you on the next quest.